Hello everyone and welcome to Beamish Bookworms. We will continue the reading of the classic Frankenstein. The links to the previous two episodes are provided below in case you haven't viewed them. Now, let's begin. Chapter 9, Home. It was early in the morning when I reached my family home. I should have been happy coming back home after 2 long years. But I was shattered by the news that had brought me home. I asked the servants not to wake my family, as it was early yet. I entered the library, where I stood facing the pictures of my deceased mother and brother, William, placed on the mantelpiece. It was for a long time that I kept standing there, nostalgia making tears come into my eyes. Taking William's picture in my hand, I gazed at it, remembering his sweet and loving nature, and I hugged his picture close to my chest and wailed in pain. When I opened my eyes, I saw Ernest standing and crying in front of me, and I took him into my arms, trying to console him and myself. We cried for a long time, and afterwards, when we dried our eyes, I asked him, "Tell me, Ernest, are Father and Elizabeth better? Hope they're able to bear this outrageous tragedy." Father has been strong and supportive during these difficult times, but Elizabeth is still quite disturbed. She couldn't focus on anything and kept accusing herself of being the cause of William's death. "But now that the real killer has been found," answered Ernest. I interrupted. "What? The real murderer has been discovered? Who's it, Ernest? But how can that be possible? I saw him last night on the mountain." Ernest replied, "On the mountain? No, brother. The murderer is our very own servant, Justine Moritz." At first we all couldn't believe it, but the police have confirmed that she is the one. She was a good servant, and we were shocked to find she could do something like this for money. It added to our pain and misery. "It's not possible, Ernest. Justine has been one of our most trusted servants. Why would she do that? I can't believe all this. Something is definitely wrong," I explained. "There is a possibility that you could be right, as the evidence is not clear. The chain and the locket with our mother's picture, if you remember, was taken from William's neck. The chain was found by one of our servants in Justine Moritz's apron, and instead of coming to us with the chain and locket, she went straight to the police. The police came and instantly arrested Justine. Tomorrow is her trial," Ernest answered. I sighed. "Justine can't do this. Why should she suffer when she hasn't done anything? I pity her and myself. The real murderer is out there and we can't even reach him." Just then, I saw my father and Elizabeth entering the library before Ernest could even act or react about what I had said. Elizabeth and father greeted me warmly and welcomed me home, sorrow marring their faces. They joined in our conversation about Justine being the murderer. My father spoke. "Victor, do you think we can't see that Justine is innocent? But now nothing can be done. The involvement of the police has worsened the state of affairs. The trial will take place tomorrow. We are all praying that the court rules in favor of our devoted servant." At that moment, Elizabeth came up to me and pleaded, "Please, Victor, something should be done to save an innocent person from being wrongfully punished. I know she is innocent. She loved William. She has been with us for years. How can we forget how she used to take care of your mother? Believe me, she is innocent." Chapter 10, The Trial of Justine Moritz. Next day was crucial for all of us, most importantly for Justine, who was on trial for the murder of William. We all went to the courtroom, and each one of us prayed for Justine to come out not guilty. Inside me, there was a tussle, And I wanted to go to the courtroom, stand in the witness box and tell the world that I was the real culprit and not Justine, who was a victim like my brother William. And if she is punished for the murder she didn't do, then it would be a crime, a second murder. I was responsible for all this misery in their lives. I wanted to bring great things to the world. Instead, I brought pain and death. I couldn't even confess my secret crime, as I would have been considered insane. I hoped with all my heart that Justine should be declared innocent. The trial began. The first thing to be brought up was the circumstantial evidence found in her apron pocket. She was not caught red-handed doing the crime, and therefore there was no real proof against her. When the judge asked her what had happened, she said, "Honorable Sir, I can clearly recall the night when dear William went missing. After the news reached me, I was worried and went with the others to the woods to look for him. When I was returning home, the city gates were closed and I had to spend the night in a barn in a nearby village. When the day dawned, I realized I had slept for too long and was woken up by the sound of footsteps. Sir, I am telling the truth. I sincerely do not know how the locket came to be in my pocket. It seems to me that someone had put that chain in my apron's pocket while I was asleep. But, sir, why would anyone do that? I have no enemies who would want to trap me in a crime. Why would someone kill William and put the chain in my pocket? Then why did he kill him altogether? For nothing. And had I killed him, would I openly carry the evidence with me? Please, sir, please, I am not the murderer." Elizabeth was then called to the stand. She said, "Sir, Justine has been working with us for years, and she has been a loyal servant and a great help. Her character is clean, and I can assure you she has the Christian heart of a good woman who would never do anything to be ashamed of." Our efforts to save Justine went in vain, as the judge was convinced that she had ruthlessly killed William for the locket, which was found in her pocket. She was pronounced guilty. I rushed out of the courtroom, cursing myself, unable to tolerate the guilt. I cannot even face my own self. So how will I face the outside world? Thought I. It was I who had created that devil to wreak havoc on people's lives. I should have been punished, not Justine. As I was ruminating, Elizabeth and my father came out of the courtroom, speechless and their faces expressionless. "Poor Justine, why did she say that? It's gotten worse than we imagined," cried Elizabeth. "What happened inside? What are you saying, Elizabeth? What did she say?" I asked. "She confessed to the crime, son. I don't know why she did it, but now there is no way to save her," my father said sadly. I was taken by surprise. "She confessed? But why? She can't do this to herself." Then Elizabeth was called by a court clerk to come in and meet Justine, who wanted to speak to her for the last time. Elizabeth was in no state to face her alone and asked me to accompany her to Justine's room. I couldn't say no to her, but my mind was in a tumult and I was reproaching myself. How could I let this happen? Justine is behind bars because of me. She's on the verge of being hanged, and I'm free after committing the biggest crime in the history of humanity? I detest myself. How will I ever forgive myself for ruining 2 lives? I went ahead with Elizabeth to where Justine was. She was in her cell, sitting on a pile of straw, resting her head on her knees, with her hands chained. Seeing us, she ran up to Elizabeth and started weeping, falling at her feet. Elizabeth exclaimed, "Why, Justine, why did you confess? Why did you lie? You know you didn't do it. Then why?" Justine answered in sobs. Yes, it's true. I confessed. But I couldn't see another way. I was trapped. They forced me to lie and confess. They warned me that I wouldn't go to heaven if I didn't confess. So fearful of God's wrath, I said I did it. But there's no hope. I feel horrible about the lie I told them. Elizabeth, I'm happy that you all believe me. Now I can look forward to a peaceful death. As God can't be unfair, He knows that I have a pure heart and I wouldn't murder someone who was like my own child. Looking at the two women crying and sobbing made me experience a strong sensation of pain, an unbearable agony. Responsible as I was for their separation, I was helpless, without a solution. Elizabeth and I struggled to make the judge understand, but in vain. To our despair, the very next day, Justine was taken to the town square and was sentenced to death. William died. Justine died. Then why was I still living? I had no right to live. Suicide was the perfect solution to end my torment. Couldn't bring myself to it. Thinking, who would look after Father and Elizabeth after I was gone? And the monster? How could I forget him? He was still out there, waiting to take more lives, kill more people. So I decided that I would continue living to protect my family. It was not the time to just think, but act against the monster. I took an oath to find the devil, even at the cost of my life. He would have to pay the price for the harm he had done to my family. Chapter 11. The Confrontation. I was very depressed after Justine's execution and found it impossible to stay at home. Unable to cope with the burden of 2 deaths, I went off to the quiet village of Kamenix alone. For a complete month, I went for walks along the glaciers in the beautiful Alpine Valley, which helped in uplifting my spirits. In the calm and peaceful lap of nature, I forgot what I had been through. The fresh mountain air beneath Mont Blanc relaxed me, and I started feeling better. But it didn't go on for long. One morning when I woke up, I looked outside the window and was unable to see the usual natural beauty. Dark clouds and a deluge of rain blocked my view. Even this windy and rainy weather couldn't deter me from going out for my daily trip to the mountaintop. I really liked this part of the day when I climbed and sat on top watching the serene and silent movement of the glaciers from the top sloping downwards. The downpour continued and I went on with my mule, slowly climbing up the steep, winding, narrow path. It was by noon that we reached the mountaintop, and the next step was to go across the glacier. It took me 2 hours to cross the glacier, which was 3 miles wide and full of deep cracks and chasms in the ice. It stopped raining finally, and sun brought some much needed relief. The sun made the ice on the mountains shine like a diamond, and the view was ethereal. All this led to a change of mood, and once again I lit up with joy, looking at the abundant beauty surrounding me. Just when I was basking in nature's beautiful bounty, I discerned a figure running towards me with superhuman speed. As it came nearer, I made out that it was a giant human-like shape approaching me. The form ran and jumped over dangerous rifts and ice surfaces, and I stood there in amazement, witnessing the impossibility of such an occurrence. Who was this mysterious creature? But I was not in the dark for too long. When he came very near, all my happiness turned into bitterness. It was the hideous monster himself. I shook with uncontrollable anger after seeing the reason of my sufferings right in front of me. I wanted to confront him and show him the hatred I felt for him, and if possible, destroy him forever. You monster! How can you even dare to face me? How I wish you were dead! My hatred for you is immeasurable, since you are responsible for the untimely death of 2 innocent people, I shouted at him. He calmly replied, I was expecting this outburst. I am not shocked to see your hostility towards me. I am ugly, so I am abhorred by the world around. But is it my fault that I am not worth looking at? No, this is your fault. You are my creator, and you created me like this. An ugly, gigantic monster who is homeless and has no family. By this time, I had lost my cool and leaped at him, scratching his pallid, wrinkled face. But he was more powerful than I had imagined. He caught my arm in his vice-like grip. I couldn't move. The monster spoke. I know that you are my creator, so I advise you to calm yourself and listen to me. Please stop blaming me for all your misfortunes. No, why should I listen to you? You are an evil creature, a devil in appearance and deeds. I don't want to hear anything, I declared. So, you don't want to know my suffering and the pain I went through? I was lonely and sad. I was kicked and scorned by everyone. Who is responsible? You are, Victor Frankenstein. You are, said he with a sullen expression on his face. I told him, even I can't forgive myself for bringing to life something as horrendous as you. The monster screamed. But can you deny that you created me? No, you can't. And now it's your duty to hear what I have to say. And then if you still hate me, you are free to kill me. But please bear with me till then. All this while, I was cursing myself for this evil creation and its repercussions. I spoke with finality. I have made up my mind. I will not listen to anything you say. Go away, you hurt my eyes. All of a sudden, the monster covered my eyes with his big hands and said, You don't have to look at me to hear me. Just listen to my voice and forget the face behind it. I removed his hand with disgust. Then the wild creature started bleeding. Please pay heed to my tale. Turn your back if you want to, but hear me out. Grant my request and I will leave you. He kept begging and pleading. I don't know why, but I finally gave in. I think it was apprehension or my inquisitive nature or even pity for him. I turned to him and said, Fine, I will listen to you. He said his story was a long one and would take some time to finish. And it would be impossible to sit outside in the cold for too long. So we went across the glacier to the hut on the mountain. He briskly ascended the steep mountains and I followed him, slowly and carefully. He had reached the hut before me, and I saw him preparing a fire for us to sit and talk. We finally sat down and he began his story. Okay, we shall stop over here. The story, as you can see, is getting darker and darker. Victor has 2 horrible and untimely deaths on his conscience. Or should I say, brutal murders. A guilty mind and a heavy heart. He has to learn to live with those. It definitely won't be an easy life. But what about the creature? What are we supposed to feel for him? Pure hatred? Disgust? Anger? Do you think it's right for us to form an opinion about him and take him to the gallows without even listening to his side of the story? Every coin has 2 sides to it, right? Let's read about his story before we pronounce a verdict. Yes? Now for the list of the difficult words. Grab a pen. Nostalgia. Outrageous. Console. marring, tussle, circumstantial, ruthlessly, wreck, havoc, ruminating, tumult, detest, wrath, deluge, deter, serene, ethereal, basking, bounty, discern, aboard, pallid, vice-like, apprehension, and inquisitive. That's all from Beamish Bookworms. Till next time, happy reading, everyone. If you enjoyed listening to this story, please do like and subscribe to Beamish Bookworms. Please press the bell icon to get notified when a new story comes out. Meanwhile, happy reading, everyone!